She didn't cry, didn't flinch, didn't even raise her voice. She just looked at me and said, "This isn't a partnership anymore. It's a transaction, and it's over." Right then, I knew something I'd built for 20 years was gone in 20 seconds. My name is Jonathan Reynolds. Most people call me John. I'm 44. Born and raised in Boise, Idaho, now living in Denver. I work in data compliance for an energy infrastructure firm called Westgate Utilities. Sounds boring, I know. But my job? It's to keep digital systems honest. To track, log, and trace every dollar that moves through a pipeline of contracts, vendors, or internal departments. I don't deal in emotions, I deal in patterns. And that's probably why this hurts the way it does. Because the woman I trusted most, she followed a pattern too, one I should have seen coming. Her name is Lauren. We met at a cybersecurity expo in Salt Lake City 15 years ago. I was giving a talk on decentralized data integrity. She was working PR for a tech startup that ran out of funding the next year. She smiled at me like I was the only person in that convention center who wasn't full of crap. 3 weeks later, we had our first real date, hiking in the Rockies. She packed trail mix. I brought a map. She laughed when I told her I double-checked the weather twice before leaving the house. "You're so careful, it's cute," she'd said. 2 years later, we were married. Bought a house in Boulder. Split mortgage payments, built routines. I brewed the coffee. She handled the laundry. It wasn't fireworks, it was steady. And I thought steady was enough. Lauren worked in branding strategy. Mid-sized clients. Traveled maybe twice a month. Nothing wild. Mostly to LA, Portland, Chicago. She'd always send a picture of the hotel room, usually with a funny caption. "This is what $400 per night gets you in LA." I'd always reply with, "Be safe, miss you." She'd say, "Back before Sunday. Don't forget to water the orchids." We didn't have kids, not by accident, just never aligned. We had our careers, our quiet routines, our retirement plan. Or, so I thought. Little things started shifting last fall. She stopped asking me to help review her proposals. Started paying for more things in cash, avoided eye contact at dinner. Once I picked up her phone by mistake and she snatched it from my hand. Said something about confidential client files. I let it go, because that's what you do when you trust someone. One night in October, she came home late, hair damp, wearing a hoodie I'd never seen before. Said her flight was delayed. I nodded. Didn't press. But when she went to bed, I opened our bank dashboard on my laptop. Not to snoop, just instinct. That's when I saw it. $8,500 withdrawn that morning, labeled operational expenses. From our joint business reserve, which we used only for long-term investments. Not for travel, not for operational expenses, and definitely not without discussion. I didn't say a word, just noted the timestamp, flagged the transaction, and logged into my personal audit server at work. I've built these systems to detect anomalies, vendor misbehavior, shadow accounts, internal leaks, and I applied the same logic to my own life. Over the next 2 weeks, I found more. Duplicate invoices, untraceable wire transfers, frequent logins to our shared brokerage from a VPN routed through Dallas. Lauren had never set foot in Dallas, at least not officially. She was moving our money. Methodically. And I still had no idea why. I waited. Because data tells stories, but it's timing that delivers the punchline. Then came the moment. Thursday morning. She was leaving for a client shoot in San Diego. Said she'd be gone 4 days. I kissed her on the forehead, watched her back out of the driveway, waved once. Then I got to work. Her flight wasn't to San Diego. She wasn't staying at a Marriott. She didn't have a presentation scheduled. Using just metadata from our calendar sync, her Slack location data, and an AirTag I'd accidentally left in her luggage from a previous trip, I traced her to an Airbnb in Santa Fe, booked under a fake name, with one guest listed, Jason Kerrigan, executive creative director at one of her clients' firms. twice divorced. Luxury car, designer jawline, and Instagram full of curated sincerity. I stared at his profile for 10 minutes. Not out of jealousy. Just making sure I memorized the name. That night, Lauren texted me, "Don't forget the recycling goes out Friday." That's what I got, while she shared wine in an Adobe rental with Jason in the desert. I responded, "Already handled. Be safe." I spent that weekend reconstructing everything. The accounts, the transfers, the linked cards, the proxy servers. She'd opened a shell company, L. Prescott Ventures, using her maiden name. And over the last 9 months, she'd moved just over $214,000 out of our long-term savings into it. Silently, precisely, like a surgeon. I should have been furious. I should have broken something. Cried, screamed, but I didn't. Because when you spend your career tracking what people hide, you learn one thing. You don't confront the storm. You weatherproof your house. Daniel stirred his coffee twice before speaking. "You brought the drive?" I slid it across the table. No smile, no hesitation. He plugged it in, brows furrowing as he clicked through the folders. Screenshots, bank statements, metadata trails, every line carefully labeled. 10 minutes passed, then he leaned back and exhaled. "She's laundering money," he said. I said nothing. "She's transferring funds from your joint accounts to a business shell. Set up under her name, but routed through a virtual address in South Carolina. Smart on the surface." "She's not smart," I replied. "She's overconfident." Lauren came home Sunday night, tan, laughing at something on her phone, wearing a hoodie I didn't recognize. She smelled like ocean breeze and top-shelf gin. I pretended not to notice. We ate Chinese takeout at the counter. She told me about San Diego, how the pitch had gone surprisingly well. I nodded. Glad it worked out. That was all. The next morning, I left early. Work was quiet, like the silence before a storm. I didn't lock her out of the accounts, didn't move the money, didn't block access. I just watched. Because sometimes people dig their own holes better than you ever could. 2 weeks later, it happened. I was finishing quarterly reconciliation when I got the alert. $212,300 transferred at 9:48 a.m. from our joint retirement account to a Delaware-based business account. No call, no email, just gone. I immediately phoned the bank, requested a flag on the transfer. They confirmed Lauren's credentials had been used. Fortunately, due to an irregular activity trigger I'd quietly activated months ago, the funds were frozen for 24 hours. 24 hours. That was all I needed. That night, I came home to an empty house and a note on the kitchen counter. "John, I need some space to figure things out. Please don't make this harder. You'll be fine. Keep the house." This isn't about love or hate. It's just evolution. Evolution. That's what she called betrayal. I stood in the kitchen, the fridge humming quietly behind me, the lemon tree outside casting soft shadows on the wall. Her perfume still lingered on the staircase, but something else floated in the air. Clarity. I opened my laptop, logged into the audit server, triggered every protocol I had. Scripts began to light up, flagging inconsistencies, checking timestamps, cross-referencing metadata, and then I found it. 2 weeks earlier, she'd begun funneling client payments through a secondary company name, Kerrigan Strategies, LLC. Jason Kerrigan. This wasn't an affair. It was a business exit plan. She hadn't just left me for a man, she left me for a merger. One that involved my savings, my name, and every financial safeguard I'd ever trusted her with. I didn't rage, didn't cry, didn't shout. I sat still and remembered something she once said when we first set up our accounts together. "You're the cautious one? Just tell me when I should worry." Well, I'd started worrying a long time ago. That night I called Daniel. We move now, I said. She's executing the extraction. You sound like you're running a sting op. I'm not, I said. I just know how patterns work, and she just broke every single one. Daniel filed an emergency injunction first thing Monday. We froze the retirement account, filed preliminary fraud allegations, issued discovery orders for her business records. By noon, Lauren had tried to log in again. Access denied, twice. Then the messages started. Lauren, John, what are you doing? Did you block me from the accounts? I need that money. I didn't respond. 5:37 p.m. She called. I let it ring. 6 buzzes in, I picked up. John, you need to release those funds. I have payroll this week. No, I said. Silence. Then her voice, colder. You're making a mistake. No, I said calmly. You already did. She hung up. Didn't call back. That evening, Daniel emailed me a compiled report. 6 months of financial activity. It read like a slow-motion train wreck. Misappropriated payments, tax avoidance, crypto wallets under aliases, and a string of consulting clients that never existed. She wasn't running. She was relocating her identity. Funded by our money. The worst part wasn't the loss, it was the strategy. The way she'd used my trust, my systems, my logic. She'd watched me build them, sat beside me while I wrote those audit scripts, smiled as I explained how anomaly detection works. She hadn't just stolen, she'd learned from me, then used it all against me. I didn't sleep that night, but I didn't spiral. I documented every transaction, every login, every redirect. If this was a war, I wouldn't fight with rage. I'd fight with records. The silence in the house felt different. Not painful, not lonely, just still. No suitcase in the hallway, no leftover coffee mug in the sink, no passive-aggressive sticky notes on the fridge. For the first time in months, there was space to think. I didn't tear down the pictures, didn't throw her things in trash bags, didn't erase every trace of her. That's not who I am. Instead, I boxed her side of the closet, labeled it Lauren Archived, put it in the attic. It wasn't bitterness, it was inventory. Monday morning, I arrived at work 20 minutes early. Karen, my manager, raised an eyebrow. Everything okay? Eventually, I said. She nodded, said nothing more. That was enough. At lunch, I sat in the break room, alone, eating my usual turkey sandwich, watching spreadsheet rows scroll past on my tablet. But my mind wasn't on compliance audits. It was on patterns. Not just financial ones, but emotional ones. The way she had slowly disconnected. The way I had explained away the signs. The way my silence had bought her time. I wasn't just betrayed. I'd been outsourced. That night, I called my sister, Emily. She answered on the second ring. It's been a while, she said, her voice warm. I know, I replied. I've been occupied. You sound like someone who just finished cleaning up a crime scene. Close enough. She didn't push for details, didn't judge. Just said, come by next weekend. I'll cook. It was the most human thing I'd heard in days. The following Saturday, I showed up at her place. Suburbs, kids' toys in the yard, smell of cinnamon in the air. Emily made chili. Her husband poured us bourbon. And for a few hours, I felt like a brother again. Not a man unraveling in silence. Do you miss her? She asked gently after the kids went to bed. I thought about it. No, I said. I miss who I thought she was. Emily nodded. That's always the harder part to grieve. I drove home slowly that night, windows down, autumn air flooding the car, and for the first time in weeks, I slept through the night. The next morning, I went for a run. 5 miles. Through the trails behind our neighborhood, leaves crunching beneath each step. I wasn't running from anything. I was running towards something. Myself. Back at work, I volunteered to lead a new compliance project. Vendor risk realignment, it was called. A fancy way of saying, find the ones lying to us. Karen raised a brow. You sure? I'm sure. I wasn't rebuilding trust. I was rebuilding competence. Each night I'd return home, make dinner for one, and log off from Lauren's noise. Emails, ghosted voicemails, silent alarms in the back of my head. I unplugged the shared Alexa, bought a record player, started collecting vinyl again. Miles Davis, Fleetwood Mac, Springsteen. Something about analog sound, no filters, no edits, felt honest. 3 weeks passed without a word from her. Then, one Friday afternoon, Daniel called. She's hired legal counsel. Of course she had. And they're claiming financial obstruction, that you intentionally restricted access to joint marital assets. I laughed. Dry, empty. She tried to drain everything and run off with another man. I secured the assets. Doesn't matter. They're playing angles now, hoping you'll fold. They're betting on the wrong man. That weekend, I cleaned out the garage. Not because it needed it, because I did. Tossed out broken tools, old paint cans, her boxes of half-finished home decor projects. Swept the floor, reorganized the shelves, installed a pegboard, hung every tool by size and function. It sounds ridiculous, but it gave me a peace I hadn't felt in months. Control, order, balance. Sunday afternoon, I took a call from Halstead's VP. He wanted to commend me on the audit system I'd quietly expanded the year before. Caught 3 vendor misalignments this quarter. Saved us hundreds of thousands. I thanked him, hung up, then just sat there, staring at my own reflection in the laptop screen. The systems I'd built to protect companies were now the same ones that protected me. Later that night, Lauren texted, "Can we talk?" No apology, no explanation. Just 3 words. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, but because I'd outgrown the conversation. I spent the next week preparing, not for revenge, for resolution. Daniel and I organized every document, labeled every financial transaction, annotated every data point. Not for court, not for drama, for truth. Because the most powerful revenge isn't shouting in someone's face, it's showing up in silence. With facts. Friday afternoon, I lit the fireplace for the first time that year, poured a glass of whiskey, sat back in the leather chair Lauren once insisted we buy. I watched the flames twist and realized something. She didn't break me. She just exposed me. Exposed the parts I'd neglected, the instincts I'd dulled for comfort, the man I'd stopped becoming. I took a deep breath and smiled. Not because it was over, but because I knew the next part was mine. I didn't show up to the hearing with anger. I showed up with evidence. Folders, labeled, chronological, color-coded. Daniel carried a second briefcase, just in case. Lauren arrived 10 minutes late, wearing a black blazer she hadn't worn since my sister's wedding. She didn't look at me, didn't nod, didn't blink. I wasn't sure she could. Her attorney opened with indignation. Your Honor, my client has been denied access to marital assets, causing undue financial hardship and emotional stress. Daniel didn't flinch, didn't speak, just handed the clerk a packet. Inside, screenshots of every transaction Lauren made, metadata logs, the Delaware shell registration, emails between her and Jason, timestamps, banking flags, IRS discrepancies. The judge read silently, 5 full minutes, then looked up. I see, he said dryly. Lauren's attorney started to object. Something about timing, context, intention versus interpretation. The judge raised a hand. Let me be clear, this isn't about marital strain. It's about financial misconduct. He turned to me. Mr. Reynolds, did you alter or fabricate any of this documentation? No, Your Honor. Did you at any point restrict her access to basic living expenses? Number, the joint account remains untouched. There's $2,800 in it. It's hers if she needs it. Lauren said nothing. Her jaw clenched, her hands shaking. But her eyes, they said it all. You were never supposed to outplay me. The judge made it swift. Temporary injunction stands. Retirement funds frozen pending investigation. No spousal support to be awarded until forensic audit is completed. Bang! Gavel down. 15 minutes. That's all it took to flip the table. Outside the courtroom, Daniel handed me a coffee. You handled that well. I didn't handle anything, I said. She handled it. I just documented it. That weekend, I got a call. Not from Lauren, not from Daniel, from HR at Halstead. Mr. Reynolds, we received an inquiry, a flagged audit involving vendor payments. Your name came up on some invoices connected to Row Creative Consulting. I froze. That was Jason's firm, Lauren's little side funnel. Those invoices, I said carefully, bear my name? Yes, we were hoping you could clarify the scope of your work. I never worked for Row, ever. They sent the documents, invoices, digitally signed, filed under compliance review oversight. With my name, my department, my fake signature. I didn't panic. I pulled up my logs, checked my access points, my security tokens, my document hashes. Lauren had copied my signature block from internal files, pasted it into PDFs, routed through a burner laptop I'd never seen, and filed them under fake projects. The fraud wasn't just marital now, it was corporate. And it had my name on it. I called Daniel. He sighed. They're escalating. They're betting the house. They forged company documents, I said. Then it's time to bring in the real cavalry. We contacted Halstead's legal department, disclosed every piece of evidence, requested a meeting with external investigators. The company moved fast, faster than I expected. Within 48 hours, they pulled security footage, email headers, digital watermark trails. Lauren's fingerprint was on everything. She hadn't just tried to ruin me personally, she tried to leverage my reputation to steal from my employer. The real twist? Jason's name appeared too. On transfers, on login metadata, on shell companies Lauren had hidden inside marketing budgets. They weren't partners in love. They were co-conspirators. 3 days later, I was called into a meeting with Adrian Shaw, Halstead's head of risk. He was calm, professional. Mr. Reynolds, your systems caught this before we did. Your logs saved us from a potentially massive vendor scandal. He paused. We're recommending formal charges. I nodded once. Quiet. Grateful, not for the revenge, but for the vindication. That night, Lauren called. Blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. She didn't leave one. Next morning, Daniel texted, they know everything now. Her lawyer's panicking. They want to settle before indictments hit. I didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, I went for a walk down by Sloan's Lake. Sun breaking through overcast. Kids laughing in the distance. And for the first time since this started, I felt clean. Not happy, not healed, just clear. She had taken everything, but she didn't realize I built the walls. I wired the alarms. I knew exactly how the system worked because I was the system. The indictment came on a Wednesday. Federal charges, wire fraud, forgery, corporate embezzlement. Lauren, Jason. 2 others from his firm I'd never heard of. I wasn't surprised. When you follow data long enough, it leads somewhere, always. Halstead's legal team sent me an update. My name was officially cleared. My cooperation had been invaluable. There'd be a press statement. My name would be omitted. I was okay with that. Lauren tried to contact me 3 more times. First a message, then a call, then a letter handwritten. I recognized the curl of her R. I didn't open it. I placed it in my cabinet under evidence. Not out of malice, but because some truths don't need reading. They just need filing. The divorce was finalized quietly. no alimony, no contested assets. The judge even noted attempted financial misconduct in the case summary. The house? Mine. The retirement accounts? Restored. Her new attorney didn't fight. There was nothing left to salvage. I sold the house 2 months later, not because I had to, because I wanted to. It held too much air from a version of me that didn't exist anymore. I bought a smaller place, 2 bedrooms, hardwood floors, no guest room. Peaceful, efficient, uncomplicated. Some nights I still dream of her, not in a tragic, longing way, just memory, snippets, a laugh over wine, a shared grocery list, the sound of her brushing her teeth. I wake up, stretch, start my day, no pain, just neutrality. I started teaching part-time. Data ethics at a local community college. Real cases, real patterns, real consequences. I tell my students trust is great, verification is better. They laugh, but they remember. I still use the same financial tracking systems. But now, I build in features for others, small businesses, family-owned companies. People who don't think like criminals, and shouldn't have to. Because justice shouldn't require someone like me to catch someone like her. Every few months, a letter still arrives. From prison, her handwriting. Still elegant, still neat. Apologies, regrets, rationalizations. I don't reply. Not because I'm cruel, because I'm done. Forgiveness isn't always about writing back. Sometimes it's just moving forward. I ran into Daniel at a bar one evening. He raised his glass. To clean exits, he said. I smiled. To quiet victories. A few weeks ago, I was asked to speak at a fraud detection seminar in Boston. Same city where Lauren and I honeymooned. Full circle, I guess. I talked about anomalies, about digital trails, about human instinct. And at the end, someone asked, "What's the best way to catch a liar?" I thought for a moment. Then I said, "Build systems that never lie." Somewhere out there, Lauren is wearing a jumpsuit instead of a fitted blazer. Jason is probably learning what federal time really means. And me? I'm exactly where I need to be. No fanfare, no followers, no final battle. Just a calm, ordinary life, made extraordinary by surviving. She tried to take everything, my savings, my reputation, my peace, but she forgot. I was never just the man, I was the system. And the system, it held.